Mr. Chairman, how are you?
I'm good. Chief, how you doing?
Good. Good deal. Jeffrey, Dave?
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see.
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon, Kelly, Dan, Susan.
Everybody's looking sharp on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, 65 degrees and sunny, like it always is in town and country, right, everybody?
That's right.
365.
That is right. All right.
Why? Hello, Chief. Can you hear me?
I can, Dave.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Chief?
Who
You
said
can,
that?
Chief. That was Chief Sadler playing with you. He's messing around. So, Ron, if you don't mind, if you could turn your either camera, computer sideways or your phone, we're getting a sideways view of you, just for presentation purposes, or rotate it. Not sure. There went off. Okay. So
There we go, Ron.
Dan Shinnicase, Kelly, Jack's here, Dave's here, Susan.
Hey, how do I get everybody's picture on the screen?
How do you get
Yeah.
everybody's? Are you on your cell phone, sir?
iPad.
iPad? You probably, as you open it up, you just slide it to the left and it will give you a different view. Or there might be some kind of connection on the side.
It should say join video, and that should join it, Mr. Woman.
There's Mark. Perfect.
Oh, wait.
There you
Yeah.
are.
There we go.
I think
Got it.
we
Okay.
have everyone. Chief?
We're waiting for Mr. Eggebrecht.
Okay. Our new police, fire, and EMS commissioner. He'll be on in just a second, and we'll call the meeting to order. Looks like we have everybody else. Chief Cavins, do you see him in
I
yet?
do not. Lori, do you see him at all?
No, he's not. And he's not on the waiting list either.
Okay.
All right. Well, if he comes in, we'll add him to the attendance. So we'll start our meeting for West County Fire and EMS Commission for February 23rd, 2021. If we want to go ahead and do a roll call, Chief Cavins, or if you want to just
Sure.
state who's present so we have it on for record.
Sure. On the record, Mr. Willman is present, or all members are present via video conference, excluding Mr. Eggebrecht. We have Mr. Willman, Mr. Sanders, Ms. Crandall, Mr. Caracas, I'm sorry, Mr. Shinnicase, Mr. Jods, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Gordon, and I did see Jack Vasquez, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay. Everybody's present, Mr. Chairman, except for Mr. Eggebrecht.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Lori helped identify a gap in our meeting last time. I called for approval of the minutes, but we didn't actually go through the whole approval process. So my apologies for that. So we're going to go back through the approval of the September 29, 2020 minutes. They were redistributed in the email sent out to everyone. So if there's any questions or any concerns, I'm going to open the floor. If not, if there's a motion to approve, go ahead. Don, you're muted. All right, Jack's going to approve the motion. Don, second. Don, you were on on that. So all those in favor of the approval of the minutes of September 29, 2020, raise your hand. And all right, they stand approved. Everyone approved there. Thank you for that. And then so back to last month's meeting, January 26, 2021. The minutes have been distributed. Is there any concerns or any questions from those minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from Don Sanders, seconded by Ron Jodis. All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 26, 2021, raise your hand. Thank you. Okay. The minutes have been approved. All right. We're going to start with some new business. And it's the Police, Fire, and EMS Commission Chair, the Aldermanic update. I do want to pass along some good news that was shared at the Board of Aldermen last night. We finally have a restaurant tenant that is going to go into Blacksmith's Groves. The Del Pietro family is going to be putting in it sounds like I'm gonna probably make it the wrong, like a steak place. It's going to have a dry rub room and something. They have a variety of concepts, Italian. They also have one called The Block. So he mentioned it was similar to The Block. And then right next to it, there is going to be a new wine bar that is going to be going in Blacksmith's Grove. Jay Delsing, the PGA Pro, and Kelly, they're not going to get a last name right. Pazlowski is the two of them are going to be putting that in. So there's only one more space left at Blacksmith's Grove. So hopefully we'll all be able to enjoy that in the near future. And speaking of that, we have a wine and cheese place is coming to Lamp and Lantern. So those are a couple of the minor but fun Aldermanic updates. On the other side of the Aldermanic updates, we're going to be going through a transition. This is the mayor and a few aldermen will be transitioning out in April. We have a new mayor coming in, Charles Ream, and we have two new aldermen that are coming in from that standpoint. From that, if I have any other updates, I'll kind of bring them into the topic at hand. So the Fire and EMS Task Force had met in February 18th. We had Chief Sadler and Chief Cavens on there, and we went over different areas with regards to creating the optimal solution, obviously in different avenues, and seeing what our options are moving forward with the fire contract, but overall just how do we serve the citizens of Town and Country. And we had two task force members, George Tarlis and Todd Solomon, meeting with Chief Sadler, and they went through the existing fire station. This is all coming back to this commission before it goes to the Board of Aldermen. So after our next meeting, we'll have the optimal solutions, and then it will go back to the Ways and Means and the Police, Fire, and EMS Commission for discussion and kind of further moving the topic towards solving the overall need. But the building that we're in it costs 2.5 times more than any other building for us to maintain right now. And it's just when it was designed, how many years ago, Chief Sadler? 25 or 30? Or is it?
Built in 1991.
1991. So built in 1991. It has a commercial HVAC unit that's designed for, 4 or 5 story building. It's not like how Chief Sadler would do and be able to handle. And so there's just a whole lot there that we've gone through. We had Chief Cavens join us this last time, and Chief, I'm going to actually have you provide that update in your update part of what potential need on that and be able to handle that. What benefit would it bring to the Town and Country Police Department if other sites or other areas are proposed and looking at? And the overall is having right now having an optimal, public safety solution for our citizens across police, fire, EMS, and really in public works too. So there's some things that will go through the public works. So we're still in the developing of the final plan, but we're really getting into the numbers at this point. We've identified the needs. We've identified the optimal solutions, and with 2 different areas of funding and starting there. So more to come this next. So we will have a police, fire, and EMS commission meeting at the end of March, and we'll be walking through these models for you. And it'll be distributed beforehand, so you have time to review and look at it for questions. Anything else I missed, Chief Sadler, Chief Cavens? Nope.
No,
Okay.
sir.
I'm going to open up if anybody has any questions at this point. If anybody has any questions, we want to discuss that for a moment. If
Yeah,
not-
I have a question. What I do, my camera here. Are there any costs associated with that yet?
that's what they're working on, and they will be. We're going to bring that all back and present that to you.
Okay,
Yeah. So yes, there are costs, but yeah, it'll all be put into different plans. Ron, I see you raising your hand. I was talking, but I don't see it. If you can turn your unmute yourself, sir.
I had a question on the town square. When are they to move in? The different people? Did they give you a date?
They didn't give us a date. I know they're working with the developer Brinkman. I think the goal is to try to get in there soon. So like summertime, I think, to try to, I will say that it was interesting because that piece of property was a tough property market to start. And then with COVID coming, it actually became a desirable property due to all the outside seating.
Good. Thank you.
Susan.
I had heard something about a month ago about that, the restaurant and the wine bar, and there was mention that they were going to try and be in there by July.
I've heard June or July. Yeah. So yeah. So I think that's probably more realistic because the restaurant part doesn't even have a floor. So, but thanks, Susan. Thank you.
I had one other question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You told us about the new mayor. Could you tell us what his name is again? Charles?
It's Dr. Charles Rehm, R-E-H-M. Dr.
R-
Charles Rehm,
R-E.
R-E-H-M. It's on our city website.
Okay.
You'll be able to find
Thank
it on
you.
there. Yes, sir. Okay. See no other questions? Chief Caven, or actually Chief Sadler, you're up first.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm going to keep it reasonably brief, given I assume that the task force discussion would be pretty intense. Really what I wanted to discuss was we've got some operational updates going on right now. Actually, March 1st, which is Monday, we're going to be relocating our heavy rescue to our Station 2, which is at Manchester and Mason. And our 75-foot aerial will be moving to our Station 1 at Henry at our headquarters building. When the new aerial device comes in June, sometime around mid-year, that will be going to Station 1 to replace the ladder truck there. The primary reason for doing this is to it's a better resource allocation, better access to the interstate for the heavy rescue, and also provides better ladder coverage as a second in ladder truck or the first in ladder truck up to Town and Country. It's going to get pulled from our Station 1 more quickly than it would from our Station 2. Believe it or not, Station 1 fills in for Town and Country to the 40 and 141 area more frequently. So we thought it was a better utilization of the resources. So that's what's going on. We're also going through a captain promotional process right now that starts later on this week and will go on for a couple of weeks. And we'll be making probably a couple of promotions off of that list. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
questions? Seeing none, Chief Shedler, I'm sure you'll have some more after our next meeting. So
Yes, sir.
we'll let you keep it quiet today, right? And we'll get you.
Yeah.
So
Looks
Go
like
ahead,
you're
Jim.
sitting outside too, are you?
What's that?
Looks like you're sitting outside.
Yes, sir. That's the rescue. I'm just ready to go.
No, I said, it looks like you're outside.
Right.
Are you? Oh,
Lambeau
okay.
Field.
That's right.
it is a
67 degrees.
virtual background, Jim.
Yeah.
He does look like he's in a nice.
Yeah, he's not fooling me.
That's
Thanks,
good
everyone.
stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Chief. Chief Kevins, Police Chief's report.
Well, good early evening, everyone. As I mentioned at the last meeting, Officer Chris Hunt officially announced his retirement effective March 9th. That set up a hiring process to which I informed all of you that I offered Erin O'Brien a conditional offer of employment based on her successfully passing all of the pre-employment testing. We were notified midweek last week that she has completed all the pre-employment hiring tests and successfully passed all of them. So therefore, we will be moving forward with a swearing in date of Monday, March 15th for Officer O'Brien. So please be on the lookout on our Facebook page, and I'll send pictures to everyone as I've had in the past because of COVID, we have the occupancy restrictions. But she comes to us from the Violence Prevention Project coordinator at Jefferson College in Hillsborough, Missouri. Though she does not have any law enforcement experience, she does have a lot of policing contacts, a lot of exposure. She has taken the initiative to ride with numerous town and country officers over the past year. All of them provided us high regards for her initiative, her personality, her just overall motivation to want to come work for Town and Country Police Department, as well as this will provide us our first chance in a long time to grow one of our own, to get some fresh ideas right out of the academy and make sure that we're keeping up with the current trends and fresh ideas that are brought to at the police academy. So we're excited to bring her on board March 15th. The load bearing vest update, I sent everybody an email. We are very excited for that. The officers are anxiously awaiting the arrival of the vest. They were actually ordered today. Some of the paraphernalia that gets attached to the load bearing vest arrived today. So now we anticipate from our vendor probably a 30 to 45 day waiting period to get them in. There are some officers that will need to be remeasured for one reason or another that we won't go into. But they're looking forward to it. If for no other reason, just the relief on their lower back and hip area. A little bit more on to piggyback off of Chairman Mortland's aldermanic update. Last night, the Board of Aldermen approved at first reading all the renovation purchase orders for the police department. So that will be moving forward to second reading on March 21st. I'm sorry, March 8th. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
March
March
8th. That'll be
yep.
second reading March 8th. So we're looking forward to that as well.
So, Chief, can you give a little more explanation or description? I mean, I know it, and I know it's in the document, but what are we renovating?
Absolutely.
Everybody, yeah.
So the police department side of the municipal center is all original from the construction of the building. So what's taking place on our side is the remodel of all flooring, ceiling tiles, replacement of the current lights with LED lights, Wallpaper is being removed, fresh paint in every office, the hallway, and new furniture in all of the PD offices on the main floor, and a complete renovation of our kitchen.
Thank you. Thank you. And one quick question before I open it up. The load-bearing vest,
Yes.
is there a retraining or, just from do you go through any kind of, since some of the equipment is in a different place, like changing the habit or the quick reaction?
Not necessarily. That you know what? That's a great question, Chairman. Not necessarily, because that's the requirement. That's what we kept the requirement that the handgun needs to stay on the duty belt, as well as the handcuffs and the magazines, because that's all muscle memory. However, the officers, when they're placing their taser up on their chest area, along with their pepper spray and other handcuffs, they will be either placed on their strong arm side or their weak or strong hand side or weak hand side that they're used to and have muscle memory from the movement from the belt up to the chest area. So it's basically just transforming it up, not moving it from the left to right. It's repositioning it from the hip up to center mass. But that's a great question.
Anybody else have any questions for Chief? And then Chief, I'm going to have you redo the task force discussion after that. Go
Yes,
ahead, Mr. Wellman, to start, you're on mute, sir. Martin, you're on mute. Oop. You're on mute, sir. No, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes.
can hear you, sir.
Great. Chief, I understand that just 2 years ago, under the former chief, that the area that you're talking about has been rehabilitated, and now we're doing it again. And also, what is the cost of this rehab of the area going to cost?
Mr. Willman, that's not accurate. The basement was redone approximately 2 to 3 years ago, to where they redone the locker rooms, the shift change room, and the sergeant's office, and the workout facility. The main level is all original, probably 26, 27 years old.
Okay, and the cost of this?
The cost is just under $200,000.
Wow, that seems like an awful lot, Chief, right now when we're having some budget restraints. Has it been in the budget for a while?
It was in the budget last year, and it was suspended due to the pandemic costs.
Okay, and the aldermen agree with that. Go ahead with this now, even though we have a $1.3 million loss in our budget.
The first reading has been approved and continued to March 8th for the second reading. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a
I have a
question.
question for the chief.
All right, Dave, we'll go with you first. If you guys want to
Yeah.
just raise your hand, I'll call you.
What about the tactical radio? You normally have it on the side and then the mic's up here. So when he's out of the vehicle, it'll still be put on the vest. Is that correct?
Yeah, the portable radio will be attached to the vest. Yes, sir.
And the vest will not come with will have a ballistic plate in the back or the front?
Yes, it's the same thing. The ballistic panels the carrier itself is just the carrier of the ballistic panels. Just like I'm wearing now, my ballistic panels are in a carrier that I wear under my shirt. So they will still have a ballistic panel in the front and in the back.
Because I saw a gentleman in our neighborhood checking a house because they were out of town, and he had more of a tactical outfit, like where you see, not really a SWAT, but somewhat like special forces, where you slip it over so you actually see the webbing and everything.
There's some of the detectives and some of the command staff, including myself, currently have those types of vests as a backup. So when we're in soft close, if we get a high priority call, we can run out to the car and flip those on, and those look like the more tactical vest. Yes, sir.
So you don't really
Those
want
are
to
not
have
the standard every day. They are not the standard day-to-day vest carriers.
Okay, I got it. All right.
What I sent you today will be the new standard, the more of the uniform looking shirt, but it's worn on the outside so that the equipment can be moved up and off the hips and lower back.
Okay.
Okay. I saw Mr. Jodis, Ron.
Yes, got a question for the chief.
Yes, sir.
On Officer Chris Hunt is retiring from Town and Country Police, and Chief had mentioned that he was going into the private sector. And I was just wondering if it's information that he can release as to where he is going.
I think, Ron, that would be, if you would like to reach out to Chris yourself, I think that would be inappropriate. He's looking at several different avenues in the private sector. I'm not sure if he's actually secured any, but feel free to reach out. I think it would be inappropriate for me to speak about
Yes.
what's going on in his personal life outside of.
I was just wondering if it was still in police work.
I can tell you that he's got several different avenues.
Yeah.
Some include, he's not going to another law enforcement agency. No.
I see. The reason I ask is Chris Hunt was the one that got me into all of this police activity. I've known him for almost all of those years.
Chris is a good man.
He's a good man.
He'll be missed.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chief Gavins? Okay, seeing none. So Chief, will you just, I know this will be a part of it, but I want this commission thinking about it before our next meeting. Will you just kind of go into a high-level overview what you discussed with the fire in EMS task force last week?
Absolutely. For the commission, I was asked to bring about topics for discussion for potential future planning of an additional West County firehouse, possibly along the Highway 141 corridor between Clayton Road and I-6440. As I explained to the Fire and EMS Task Force, a firehouse in this location would provide a grand opportunity for a police substation on the west end of the city. Some of you may be aware that we do have an office at the current firehouse, but this is not a true substation. A true substation or a true police substation has adequate space to conduct interviews of witnesses and victims of crime, adequate housing. I'm sorry, not adequate housing, my mistake. It has adequate facilities to potentially hold a suspect of a crime, adequate IT infrastructure, and is strategically located for a response to calls for service and overall visibility. A substation, a well-researched, planned, and developed substation at the firehouse in this proposed location will offer TCPD increased overall visibility as it pertains to traffic and our retail hub of the city, meaning Lamp and Lantern, Town and Country Crossing, Schnucks Plaza, etc. There will be ease of access to Clayton Road, I-6440, I-270 Conway Road in the northern portion of the city. It would lessen, obviously, the response times to some of the major traffic intersections to include 141 and 64, 141 in Clayton, as well as our retail hub. And more importantly to me, and I've had this conversation with some of you commissioners over time, is that these interstates scare me half to death as a chief of police. We've got probably somewhere around 26 lanes of traffic. We've got about close to 200,000 motorists that travel throughout the city on 6440 and 270 daily. And there's limited crossover access for our officers should one officer need assistance. So if an officer is on a motorist assist somewhere along westbound 64, say between Maryville and 141, and he's in need of assistance, and there's an officer traveling eastbound on 64, though the support officer could be close, he is yet still so far away because he's got to go up to the next exit, go across, come back, gain access. So he could be anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes away. when logistically he's right across the concrete barrier from the office. So this location would give us ease of access to eastbound 64 along the entire geographical limits of the city, while we then have the entire westbound side covered from the current municipal center. I also brought up the fact, and probably more importantly, and not to downplay the value of a police substation at all, but the city of Town and Country does not have a suitable or appropriately equipped location to serve as an emergency operations center to correctly respond to any type of natural or man-made disaster. Should we get a hazmat or chemical spill just outside of my office window on 270 and we have to evacuate this building, we have no place to go. Should there be a tornado or an ice storm that come through the city where your chief of police and your fire chief and city administrator and city clerk and finance director have to go to properly manage that disaster, we have no place to go. We have a conference room at the back of the municipal center, but it's not adequately equipped. There's obviously not enough space. Luckily, for the citizens of Town and Country, I have a great working relationship with Chief Sattler. We have talked since my arrival, and should we need any type of emergency operations center, we will work out of their training center at Station 2 off of Manchester Road in Manchester. So your chief, some of the police commanders, the city administrator would have to go to another city to work out of an emergency operations center to handle a disaster within the city limits of Town and Country. So the projected location through proper research and development would offer the city or afford the city the opportunity to construct a true emergency operations center and improve, solidify, and legitimize a true emergency operations plan, similar to what our neighboring communities of Creve Coeur, Chesterfield, Maryland Heights, Baldwin, Richmond Heights, and Clayton have. So those were my two projections or two ideas, or how the Town and Country Police Department and the city as a whole would benefit from this project moving forward.
Thank you, Chief. Any thoughts or questions to what Chief just offered with regards to the task force discussion?
Yeah, what's the status of that right now, if I can ask? Is
The
it just a
status
proposal?
of the task force?
Yes.
The task force is, I mean, right now there's nothing in the comprehensive plan. There was nothing really moving forward. What we ended up is extending our current West County Fire and EMS contract. At the same time, we discussed trying to solve the larger problem as opposed to just extending the contract and moving on. So we're in a really strategic kind of planning process with this, Jack, and from that, that's why we're going to be bringing it back to this commission for insight and input before we finalize it and take it to the Board of Aldermen or the citizens. But that whole process, any of those things would end up going to a citizen, going to vote, a citizen's vote.
Understood. Thank you.
Most definitely, Jack.
Mr. Chairman?
Chief Cavins, did you want to say something?
Yes, if I could just add something real quick. I encourage all of you, whether it's in regards to our renovations or whether it's in regards to our capabilities to operate in a larger scale disaster. Again, whether it's a tornado, a hazmat, a school shooting, whatever it may be, swing by the municipal center anytime. I've always encouraged all the commissioners to come by, take a tour of the facilities. And I think the visualization, for those that haven't been by to take a tour, I think the visualization, again, whether it's the renovations or the priority need for a true emergency operations center, I truly believe that you will see the need. And I think Chief Sattler would also encourage those that haven't toured the firehouse to see the firehouse as well in its current infrastructure.
Certainly, thank you.
Most definitely. Jim?
Yeah, Chief Cavens, where would the 911 calls be diverted to if there was a disaster? And could you, the dispatchers you have there for the other two cities, would you be able to dispatch off of portable radios? Is there enough repeater sites around that would work?
I will tell you, Mr. Conrad, that should we have to evacuate this building, the 911 calls would be rerouted to Central County. Am I correct on that, Chief Sattler? I believe that's accurate. Would go to Central County. As far as dispatching appropriately, no, you can't dispatch appropriately from a portable radio. Do you have still communication access? Yes. But do we have a place at this point in time to where if we would have to evacuate this whole entire building and WCDC needs to go with us and basically conduct a plug and play to where they can plug in laptops and other IT type equipment so that they can gain access to their CAD system, to their records management system? Absolutely not. Does that answer your question, Jim?
Yes, it does. I'll tell you the truth, it just kind of surprises me when they redid this whole communication system that wasn't taken into consideration.
Which part, Jim?
When they went to the...
What are you talking about taking into consideration? Which part?
Well, an alternate location to be able to dispatch from.
Well, I can tell you that they could relocate to the likes of Ladue, our Frontenac, our Creve Coeur, but because they've withdrawn all of that equipment and some of that infrastructure from our WCDC partners, it just wouldn't be a plug and play to get things up and running. It would take a period of time to get what we needed up and running. Could we dispatch and still have radio communication with our dispatchers via portable radios? Absolutely. But if they needed to move because of an evacuation or that a tornado hit this building, it would be some time to get them adequately supported at a different location. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. And Chief, the the dispatch center, WDCDC, I always get about confused, but they have their own disaster recovery plan. It's just the recovery time objective is longer than what is necessary to keep the dispatch moving, quickly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's an accurate statement.
So they do have it. It might, like in my business, we deal with if there's a disaster, it might be days before they're fully operational, but they have an interim plan to get their job.
In normal cases, usually, and Chief Sadler can jump in, usually communication centers have a remote location for this situation, for these types of situations. They may normally not have 4 or 5 PSAPs, public safety answering points, in that remote location like they would at our main facility, but should need to evacuate, they could go there and at least there would be 1 or 2 PSAPs established and ready to go in the case of need. Correct, Chief Sattler?
Yeah, so what would likely happen, the plan that would go into effect if the worst case, one of the worst case scenarios played out, would be St. Louis County Police would handle the law enforcement calls, and anything fire and EMS related would get just directly routed to Central County for fire and EMS. But honestly, it's a big can of worms to unpack when it comes to the PSAPs in the county. So there's having backup sites, remote backup sites for each PSAP is, we could have a bunch of meetings just about that if we wanted to. It's really complicated.
Any other questions? on that? If not, obviously there'll be a lot more that we'll be bringing back. Commissioner Sanders is on the task force representing the police, fire, and EMS. And then we have the all wards represented from that standpoint.
With
ahead,
the
Dave.
funding, like with the remote, if I'm understanding this right, with the remote site, since you're dealing with a highway like 64, doesn't the state of Missouri come in and help fund for Town and Country to have this because it's a highway, and even though it's
Absolutely not.
Oh, they don't.
Absolutely not.
But doesn't, like with the police, our Town and Country police officers, they will assist the highway patrolman if he needs help on the highway, right?
Well, I think there's two different topics that you're speaking of.
Right.
We handle all the traffic accidents on both of our interstates, except for a fatality accident. If that's what you're talking about, we handle all the accidents, we handle all the calls for service on the highway, except those of a fatality nature. In regards to, I think you may be leading to, should a Town and Country officer may be in need of an assistance? Yes, if an officer is in need of aid along an interstate, it would be Town and Country, it would be Chesterfield, it would be Baldwin, it would be Manchester, it would be Creve Coeur, Highway Patrol. Everybody could, in fact, respond. But that immediate notification of an officer in need of assistance, this would give us better access at the time of that immediate need. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Orr?
Yeah, I got right with the remote site, the
substation.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I understand.
So more to come. We will having this our next meeting in March. Fire Marshal Phipps, your report.
Hey,
Martin? Fire Marshal Phipps, you're muted.
The annual fire inspections, for you don't understand, one of my jobs is I do annual fire inspections on every commercial building, which is about 394 commercial inspections, along with 28 liquor license inspections, which has to be performed before the city can issue a liquor license and or business license. That process started this week, typically starts 1st of March. I jumped a week ahead, trying to get ahead of it. But I will be visiting every commercial structure in the city, doing a fire inspection, and before they can get their license, which they have to have a license by the end of June. So this next few months, I'll be quite busy out doing those inspections. And that happens every year. Just wanted you to bring you up to date that we do visit all of our commercial buildings annually. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions for Fire Marshal Phipps? Seeing none. All right. Open agenda. Is there any other items any commissioners would like to discuss, or chiefs, if you have anything else, Fire Marshal, anything else you'd like to discuss? Seeing none. I'm not sure if Lori, if you can hear us, our next meeting, so we have that would be the 23rd.
Yes, sir.
Of March. Does that work for everybody here? Okay. So Lori will be sending out a calendar reminder, and then we'll have the agenda right before that. So thank you all for your time. Know that you can reach out to myself, Chief Sadler, Fire Marshal Phipps, anytime you get any questions. Also, the documents that Chief Cavens referred to as part of the renovation or in last night's Board of Aldermen agenda meeting, and the previous fire and EMS task force meetings are online too. So if you have some time, they're a little long, but there's a lot of good content. Yes, Chief Cavens.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to mention I know some of you have been great supporters of the polar plunge that's coming up this Saturday.
I was just getting into that, Chief. I was
Oh,
just getting into
okay.
that. I was just like,
Hey, how about you just tell me to be quiet?
how lucky? Well, I didn't know what you were going to say, Chief, so I can't tell you.
I'll
to be
just stay in my
quiet.
lane, Chairman. I'll stay in my lane.
No. So I was going to hand that off. I was just going to say you got a little lucky. The weather turned and it won't be as cold. So go ahead with it, Chief. Sorry. So
Yes, we did get absolutely lucky. It's supposed to be 56, partly sunny, but maybe with a little bit of rain, but we don't care. That 56 is going to be nice coming out of about 10-degree water, I bet. But what I wanted to mention is a couple of you had asked or told me that you were interested in coming out to watch your officers plunge. We got notification late yesterday that there is COVID restrictions and that each team is only allowed 3 non-plunging spectators. How they're going to manage that, we don't know, but still we'll be gathering as a team. Feel free. Most of you have got my cell number. Feel free to text me. We are plunging at 1:40 p.m. Isn't that correct there, Lieutenant Wilkie? Are you on, correct? Yeah, at 1:40 p.m. So for those that want to come out and just kind of cheer us on and see us into the cold, frigid waters of Creve Coeur Lake, feel free to come out and see us. But I'm not sure how we're going to get you down to see the actual plunge. But no matter what, as usual, I greatly appreciate everybody's support. And on behalf of everybody here at TCPD, we thank you very much.
thanks, Chief. And
Would
nice
say
way to-
stay warm, but that's impossible.
You're absolutely correct, Jack.
Good. It's good teamwork and helping others. Thanks, Chief. So, with nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Was that-
So moved.
So moved, Jack. All right. And do I have a second? Second by Martin. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you all for your time. We'll see you in March. And have a good day and stay safe.
Good night, everybody, and I'll send you some polar plunge pics.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks.
Bye.